You know, seriously, the U.S. economy is structurally sound and has got strong long-term economic fundamentals, but we've got quite a headwind when you look at what's going on with housing and the capital markets turmoil and oil at $100 a barrel. And while I expect the economy to continue to grow this year, the housing correction clearly is a big drag, and it poses by far the biggest risk to the downside. And we at Treasury are really focused on what's going on in housing today in the U.S. You all may have noticed some of the economic data that's come out this week. And again, that data on housing tends to support those forecasters who believe that this correction will take some time to play out, and I agree with them. And then, of course, there are other parts of the country where there are also high levels of foreclosures, where there are different set of economic issues that are driving them, and they're regional economic issues where the economies are struggling a bit, if you look at Cleveland, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan. But let's put all of this in perspective, and I remind people of this. 93% of the mortgages in this country are being paid on time, and there's 55 million people who have mortgages. 93% are being paid on time every month, and less than 2% are in foreclosure. So while some in Washington are proposing big interventions, most of the proposals I've seen would do more harm than good. And I'm not interested in bailing out investors, lenders, and speculators. I'm very focused on solutions targeted at struggling homeowners who want to keep their homes. And when you look at this, has to be a shared responsibility. Government has got its role, and we've worked hard. The president has signed legislation that provides tax relief to homeowners who have their mortgage reduced in value when they do a workout. We're working hard to get some more flexibility for the FHA so that they can help out an additional 300,000 subprime borrowers. We have various proposals for tax-exempt financing, which will be helpful at the state and local area. And then a big part of what we've tried to do is work with industry, and we have this Hope Now Alliance, which has servicers covering 90% of the subprime market and 70% of the overall mortgage market. And one of the very big jobs there is to get to people who are delinquent in their mortgage and have them come forward and talk to someone and seek help to get to subprime mortgage holders 90 days before they're going to have their mortgage reset, and have them come forward and ask for help. And it's really quite depressing to recognize that 50% of those who lose their homes in foreclosures never talk to anyone. And we've worked very hard on this, but again, this is a shared responsibility. If borrowers aren't willing to ask for help or respond to efforts to reach them, there's only so much others can do on their behalf. Just a few words about the stimulus package. We've done a lot of work with the IRS, and I think some people were surprised to hear that the IRS is able to do this. But beginning May 2nd, we will get payments out and we're going to get the payments out for really all filers, everyone who files by the 15th of April, get it out largely by the end of June, and it may go into the first week of July. But a big effort beginning with direct deposits very early in May. And so this will make a very real difference. It will add at least 500,000 jobs this year. It will add to GDP. It will add to growth when we need it. And secondly, we on this Hope Now Alliance, what we're doing is the industry is aggressively reaching out to those in need, and we're seeing some real results. I'd like to see more in terms of response, but before the effort was begun, 2 to 3% of the people who were approached actually responded. Now that's closer to 20%. And there's 20% of the people that can be helped. There's still 80% aren't responding, but it's a very big difference. And when you look at the fourth quarter of last year, we had twice the number of mortgage modifications that we had in the third quarter. And again, we have a big focus on subprime. And sometimes people ask me why we focus on subprime. And let me give you some quick statistics. Even in a good year, the period 2002 through 2005, there are roughly 650,000 foreclosures in the United States. So that would be an average year. Last year, we don't have all the numbers in, but I think it'll be something around 1.5 million foreclosures. And there are forecasts indicating that they'll be higher this year, maybe up to 2 million foreclosures this year. Now, when you look at the foreclosures, they're disproportionately concentrated in the subprime area. Of the 55 million mortgages in this country, 13% are subprime, and yet that 13% is going to have 50% of the foreclosures. And then if you look at the mortgages where there's the product problem, as I describe it, the adjustable rate, the so-called 228, the adjustable rate, or the ARM subprime mortgages, that's about 6.5% of the total, and that's got 40% of the foreclosures. So we've worked very hard on this group, and we put together this Hope Now Alliance, which has a program aimed at fast-tracking those homeowners that are able to make their initial payment. So they're able to make their initial payment, are not going to be able to afford their reset, and fast-tracking them into either a modification, which can be an interest rate freeze, or into a refinancing. And the objective there, and I believe it will be obtainable, the objective is if you're a homeowner, got a subprime mortgage that's going to reset, and you can afford the initial payment, and the initial payments, and you want to stay in your home and you're willing to talk to someone about it, then you should be able to stay in your home. You shouldn't be pushed into foreclosure.
Sovereign wealth funds, mostly from emerging markets, emerging economies, have been a major new source of capital for financial institutions in the U.S. What sort of concerns do you have about these investments in U.S. companies? And do you foresee a possible political backlash similar to the one that we saw by the attempts of Dubai Port World to acquire operations in the U.S.?
Well, Bill, thank you. Again, a very timely question. I'm going to go back and say that there's real protectionist sentiment in this country right now. There just is. And it's of great concern to me, but the average American out there doesn't understand the benefits of trade because the dislocations are obvious, and often the dislocations have nothing to do with trade. They have to do with technology and automation, and no one says, well, I want to turn back automation or technology. They turn back, I want to shut off the internet, but globalization is of great concern, and we've always been open to investment in this country, and we've benefited from investment. That's the ultimate vote of confidence anyone can pay to our economy, is make a direct foreign investment. But the American people have always been suspicious for as long as I remember foreign investment. I remember in the 80s when the Japanese were buying golf courses, and I remember talking to one person I know very well when the Japanese bought the Rockefeller Center, and this person was very upset. And you see, for those of you who know me, I've still got that silver tongue, But in any event, and I said to my mom, the Japanese can't put the Rockefeller Center on an aircraft carrier and take them back to Japan. We've still got the Rockefeller Center and we've got their money. But there is a concern, and sovereign wealth funds have been investing in this country for a long time. Now, there is, and I think rightfully so today, more scrutiny because we have capital markets that are free and open, and they're driven by investors that make investments that are commercially driven and where there's an economic rationale. And everything we see is that's what's driving sovereign wealth funds who have been investing in this country for many years. They are much bigger in absolute terms, but as a percentage of global wealth, they're not much bigger. The projections are they're going to continue to grow very fast. And so at Treasury, what we're doing is, first of all, we welcome these investments, but we're spending a fair amount of time getting together with sovereign wealth funds from some of the newer ones, China and Russia and various places in the Middle East, as well as many that have been here for many, many years. We had a breakfast at Treasury where there were 27 of them there, and again, talking about their objectives, their motivations, and we are encouraging them to work with the IMF and others to develop a set of best practices so that they can make the recipients of their investments more comfortable. And then we're working with OECD countries to come up with some standards there so that they won't use the fact that someone is a sovereign wealth fund as an excuse to give in to protectionist sentiment. So again, there's a lot of focus on this right now, but my position is we welcome investment in this